This is Michael Madison. He has now been found guilty of being a serial killer from East Cleveland, Ohio, who is known to have killed at least 3 women. Van Terry justified in front of the judge during the man's sentencing hearing to give the man who tortured and killed his 18-year-old daughter's killer a victim impact statement. Right now, I guess we're supposed to, in our hearts, forgive this clown who touched our families, took my child? At one point while Terry was speaking out on the witness stand, Madison reportedly smiled back as Terry fixed her attention on her. The assault occurred at that time. Terry was offended by Madison's smile, so he pounced on her. Or him, rather. The assault occurred at that time. Terry was offended by Madison's smile, so he pounced. While Madison was given the death penalty in 2016, is currently being held on death row, in what is probably the first of several pleas for the 39-year-old who was on trial for murder at the Southern Ohio Correctional Institution. The court's 7 justices unanimously upheld Madison's 2016 conviction, and 3 distinct death sentences. A jury found Madison guilty of killing Shiralda Terry, 18, Shatisha Sheely, 28, and Angela Deskins, 38, by strangulation between October 12th and July 2013. According to the prosecution, Madison met the 3 women in separate incidents and then enticed them to return to his apartment at the intersection of Hayden and Shaw Avenues. Terry was released from custody without being charged. This is Larry Nassar. He was formerly an osteopathic doctor and is currently an American sex offender who was found guilty. On January 24th, Lawrence G. Nassar, a former doctor of the American gymnastics team, received a sentence of 40 to 175 years in prison for sex offenses. It was the culmination of more than a week of victim impact statements from young girls and teenagers who detailed how, as aspiring athletes, they were sent to Dr. Nassar at gymnastics camps, gyms, his home, and at the clinic at Michigan State University. He abused athletes for many years while pretending to be treating them. He served as the team physician for the American women's national gymnastics team for 18 years, which allowed him access to hundreds of young girls and women who are vulnerable to his abuse. I really feel that my entire family has gone through hell and back in these last few months because of what Larry Nassar did to both of my sisters and I years ago. I have known Larry Nassar for most of my life. He was once someone that I had always trusted. Judge, would a distraught father have a chance to say something? Go ahead, sir. The father then went on to call Larry Nassar a son of a... The judge then replied, Sir, we don't use profanity in a courtroom, but if you have some words that you'd like to say, I would like to give you the opportunity to say it. And then the father said, I would ask you to, as part of this sentence, to grant me 5 minutes in the locker room with this demon. Would you do that? Yes or no? Would you give me 1 minute? The judge denied the father's request and said, You know that you can't do that. That's not how our legal system works. Despite the judge turning down his request, the father fled and attempted to harm Nassar. After serving a separate 60-year sentence, Larry Nassar was given a sentence ranging from 40 to 175 years in prison for a number of offenses, as we said earlier. The father won't be charged with the crime, while on the other hand, Larry's going to serve 100 years in prison, which is effectively a life sentence. This is Jason Howard. Although his ex-girlfriend and their 3 children were discovered dead in their own home 5 months prior to his current court appearance for involvement in a murder, the only person of interest was Howard, who in an interview asserted his innocence. I mean, I was a protector and a provider for my family, but I wasn't there to protect her and to die with him. I wish I was. I mean, to be honest with you, I would rather be dead right now. The quadruple homicide of his ex-girlfriend and her children, however, is still unsolved, and the ex-girlfriend's family believes that he is to blame. Keep in mind, however, that he's currently in court for a completely unrelated murder. Stepping into the courtroom with a vengeance is the deceased ex-girlfriend's brother. The victim's cousin steps forward and takes a seat at this moment. When Jason Howard was being heard, a television cameraman caught one man punching the defendant while another man jumped the banister separating the courtroom from the public and continued to punch Howard after court staff had removed the first attacker. Howard, 24, made an effort to avoid the blows. On this video, he's seen sitting motionless after both attackers had been subdued. He was examined by a jail doctor and found to be unharmed. According to Trumbull County Sheriff's Major Robert Davis, both Warren residents Lewis West, 30, and Sultan Hanzu, 29, were taken into custody and charged with assault upon entering the Trumbull County Courthouse. Lame. The murder of his ex-girlfriend and her children is not the only charge against him. Reports indicate that nobody knows, and that the case has just never been resolved. This is Clifford Thomas. He is the boyfriend of the mother's 3-year-old son, who suffered multiple blunt force injuries and died. Later, her death was determined to be a homicide, and now the mother and boyfriend are appearing in court jointly. The child's biological father, Dwayne Smith, was preparing to make a victim impact statement to the person who killed his daughter during the sentencing. Attorney John McWilliams, who was present in court, claimed that Dwayne Smith, the father of the child, struck Clifford Thomas in the head as he prepared to deliver a victim impact statement. Deputies from the Wayne County Sheriff's Office quickly separated the two, and the video shows that yelling could be heard throughout the courtroom. Oh, and Thomas was given 57 months to 15 years in prison for unintentional homicide, and 1 to 2 years for obstructing and resisting a police officer. Gordon received sentences of 7 to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter, and 14 to 25 years for first-degree child abuse. The judge decided not to declare Dwayne Smith in contempt of court. This is Tristan Lamoureux. For the murder of Misty Lamoureux, 19, in their Cedar City apartment, Tristan Jared Lamoureux, 25, faces a sentence ranging from 15 years to life in prison. Possession of a firearm by a prohibited person and a Class A felony in the 3rd degree. With the guilty plea, the misdemeanor of failing to stop for police was dropped. The body of Misty Lamoureux was discovered in the couple's apartment bathroom next to a lit cigarette, holding a lighter in her hand. She had received 5 handgun shots to the head. The victim's brother speaks during the victim impact panel during the sentencing to discuss the impact on the community. The brother was quickly escorted from the courtroom, and according to reports, he was also not charged. Tristan Lamoureux was later given a sentence of 15 years to life in prison for the murder of his sister, after making direct eye contact with the man who killed his sister. This is Dale Williams, following his admission that he had run his ex-girlfriend off the road before fatally shooting her. He's now awaiting a sentencing. Her 2 sons were in the courtroom with their mother, who was also there. Just as their sister started reading a victim impact statement, Elizabeth Pledger Stewart's 2 adult sons attacked Dale Williams Sr., the man who had been found guilty of murder. You see Anthony D., 30, sliding over the table, and Jerome Stewart, 23, going around, and Anthony has Williams by his leg in this frame. When Dale Williams Sr. was being sentenced for the murder of Elizabeth Pledger Stewart in June 2017, a man wearing blue jeans and a black t-shirt was seen on video leaping over a wooden table and lunging at Williams. Williams looks like he's being pulled out of his seat and onto the ground by the first man, who's wearing orange pants and a shirt, as the second man runs around the table towards Williams. As several sheriff's deputies attempt to separate the 2 men, both men then appear to strike Williams repeatedly. One of the men received a stun gun treatment. Dale Williams was sentenced to 23 years to life in prison after his first sentencing was postponed, and his 2 sons were sentenced to 30 days in jail for assault, contempt of court, and obstructing official business.